About 5% of the elongated skulls that we find in Paracas are so complex in shape and size that it's hard to believe that they're the result of any form of cranial deformation.
The Paracas skulls defy human biology with their impossible shape and mysterious origin. Long dismissed as myth, they puzzled researchers for years.
Some initial DNA testing has been done, and the results, according to the geneticist, are quite startling. There were certain segments of the DNA that didn't match anything known to be human.
Until modern DNA testing revealed shocking results. What scientists discovered challenged everything we thought we knew about human history and evolution, exposing a truth so unsettling that it continues to spark debate and disbelief even today. The unsettling anatomy. To understand the shockwave the DNA results sent through the scientific community, we have to travel back in time, all the way to 1927, and return to the moment the sun-baked earth of the Peruvian desert first decided to give up its secrets. This wasn't some haphazard discovery. It was the careful work of a Peruvian archaeologist named Julio Tello. He was digging near the desolate, wind-swept Paracas Peninsula, an area that looked barren and empty. Tello and his team weren't prepared for what they were about to uncover beneath the scorching surface, a massive burial complex that was unlike anything seen before. It was a labyrinth of deep, precisely carved subterranean chambers that archaeologists call chulpars. Inside these stone-lined tombs, arranged with deliberate care, lay over 300 skulls. But these weren't ordinary human remains. They were strangely stretched and unnervingly elongated. They appeared to challenge the basic principles of human anatomy, instantly disrupting all the ideas scientists had about ancient peoples. The strange sights within the tombs made the mystery even more puzzling. Each skull had been tenderly wrapped in layer upon layer of exquisite textiles, woven with a craftsmanship that spoke of a highly advanced culture. They were buried not with crude tools, but with ceremonial blades and intricate jewelry, screaming of power and privilege. This wasn't the resting place of common villagers. This was clearly the elite class of a powerful, long-forgotten society, commanding both fear and respect in their time. When researchers performed radiocarbon dating on the remains, the results pushed the timeline of civilization back dramatically. The burials dated to between 2,800 and 3,000 years ago, placing them firmly in the window of 800 to 1000 BCE. This timeline is crucial because it means the people responsible for these tombs belong to the Paracas civilization, a culture so ancient it significantly predates the mighty Inca Empire, and even the famed Nazca culture that carved giant geoglyphs into the same desert centuries later. This established the Paracas not as some minor tribe, but as one of the Andes' earliest, most complex societies. But as impressive as their age and their craftsmanship were, the mystery of those elongated skulls persisted. Were they simply the result of an ancient custom? A deliberate attempt to shape the head for status? Or did this unsettling shape suggest something far more about who these individuals actually were? The more scientists studied the bones, the more they realized the physical differences were too extreme to be explained by mere head binding alone. The question then became, what if this unusual, elongated body shape wasn't just for show, but actually a natural inherited feature? If that's the case, the next logical step was to discover where these people originated from and who their ancestors were. The Paracas civilization's era was extraordinary, but the most disturbing truth about the skulls was that their unusual, elongated form wasn't a natural occurrence. It had been created on purpose. This wasn't some minor, random quirk. It was a deliberate, cultural practice that demanded the question, why would an entire society put so much effort into modifying the very shape of its own people. The accepted theory, shared by most historians and anthropologists, is artificial cranial modification. Imagine a baby's skull, still soft and pliable. Starting from infancy, the child's head would be tightly bound with cloth wraps, cords, or wooden boards. Over a period of years, this constant, gentle pressure would gradually mold the cranium, stretching it backward and upward into that eerie, elongated form. This was not a quick cosmetic procedure, but a conscious decision made by families from the moment a child was born, reflecting a core cultural belief. This elongated form was a significant visual emblem, a kind of living badge. It wasn't just a sign of high rank. Many believe it was meant to signify divine ancestry or spiritual power. In the Paracas world, looking different meant you were considered closer to the gods, possessing greater wisdom or a higher intellect. The head, after all, housed the mind, and manipulating its shape was a way of reinforcing the social and cosmic order. These individuals were marked as the elite, the spiritual leaders, the keepers of sacred knowledge, visibly separated from the common population. Now, while the idea of head binding might sound strange to us, it wasn't unique to the Paracas. Cultures across the globe practiced it. The Maya in Central America, some tribes in Africa, and even the Huns in Eurasia all used modification to mark status or group identity. But here is where the Paracas skulls become truly unique. When experts compared the Paracas remains to other examples of head binding, a serious debate began. The Paracas skulls didn't just look elongated, they appeared incredibly refined and uniform. Some were so extremely stretched that scholars began to wonder if standard techniques could even achieve such distortion. They stood apart in a way that the usual cultural explanations couldn't quite contain. This distinction is the point where science and mystery collide. The physical anomalies became too much to ignore. If you look closely, the skulls of the Paracas people have features that go beyond simple shaping. They possess traits that many experts argue couldn't be faked, no matter how tightly you wrapped a baby's head. And this left them to consider the possibility that, what if the shape wasn't entirely man-made? What if the individuals in those tombs didn't just shape their heads, but were born with certain anatomical features that made the elongation easier, or perhaps even naturally caused it in some cases? This theory suggests that the Paracas elite may have inherited a unique biological possibility that separated them from other human groups. To resolve this unsettling doubt, to find out if the differences were cultural or deeply biological, scientists had no choice but to push past the surface and examine the one thing that never lies: the DNA. The genetic shockwave. The core of this entire mystery rests on one disturbing idea. The physical evidence suggests these Paracas skulls weren't just shaped differently by cultural practice. In some ways, they appeared to be built differently altogether. This is where it's important to separate visual shock from scientific fact. Online posts often highlight the skull's large eye sockets as supposed proof of alien origins. But when experts like Dr. Melissa S. Murphy, an anthropology professor who has studied Peruvian human remains extensively, examined the skulls, her findings told a different story. She stated clearly, "The eye sockets are normal and perfectly within the range of human variation and look like eye sockets of other human skulls from Peru." Furthermore, despite the extreme distortion, the head shape is definitively attributed to artificial cranial deformation. It is a non-normal shape, but the skull is still human. However, the debate doesn't end with the eyes and the overall shape. Even within the scientific community, some anomalies persist that demand further explanation. One of the most controversial claims involves the skull's size, with other researchers claiming up to 25% more cranial volume. Mainstream scientists rightly argue that artificial modification should not result in such drastic size increases, leaving the volume claims highly contested. More so, researchers noticed a striking anomaly involving the joints of the skull, the reported widespread absence of the sagittal suture. This joint normally fuses the two major plates of the skull. While its absence can occur naturally, its frequent appearance in the Paracas elite is highly suspicious. Compounding this, modern CT scans sometimes showed an internal structure that looked surprisingly uniform, as if the bone naturally grew into its elongated form, rather than being warped by external pressure. This collection of internal anomalies, from the missing sutures to the bone density, is what scientists could not simply dismiss. It begged the ultimate question. If the anatomy is human, but the internal development patterns are so unique, what hidden genetic truth does the Paracas lineage hold? To move past anatomical riddles, the team knew they had to seek the definitive answer hidden in the genetic code. Now, analyzing DNA that's 3,000 years old is an incredibly difficult job. Genetic material breaks down fast, but here, the harsh, dry desert climate of Paracas became the scientists' greatest ally. The arid conditions acted like a giant natural freezer, preserving tiny fragments of organic material like strands of hair, bits of preserved skin, bone, and even intact teeth. Collecting these samples was a task straight out of a forensic movie. Ancient DNA is so fragile that even a single stray cell from a modern scientist could ruin the results. To prevent contamination, every instrument had to be sterilized, and the researchers worked wearing full protective gear. They were specifically seeking out mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA. This type of DNA is passed down only through the mother and is much tougher than the nuclear DNA that holds most of our genetic blueprint. Because it's so resilient, mtDNA is perfect for tracing ancient maternal lineage and comparing it to known human groups worldwide. To make absolutely sure of the results, samples were shared and cross-referenced with independent laboratories in the United States and Europe. The scientific community waited in suspense, expecting a clear conclusion that would settle the mystery forever. Instead, what emerged was total bewilderment. The DNA test results didn't just give an answer. They sent a shockwave that shook the basic ideas about human migration. Scientists had expected the mitochondrial DNA to clearly connect to local South American tribes, like the indigenous peoples of the Andes. But those expected connections were mostly absent. Instead, the data showed ancestry that didn't fit with what you'd expect in Peru. Instead of finding Native American lineage, the geneticists discovered something startling: foreign haplogroups. These specific genetic markers were commonly associated with populations thousands of miles away, across vast oceans. They traced back to regions like the Caucasus, parts of Europe, and even Mesopotamia. Imagine the discovery: 3,000-year-old skulls in Peru carrying genetic signatures linked to the Middle East and Eastern Europe. How did that genetic material travel across entire continents and oceans during that time? The very idea shattered the timeline of human movement that historians had accepted for decades. The situation became even stranger when researchers examined the profile of one specific skull. This individual's DNA showed a complete absence of any Native American genetic markers. But later studies confirmed the presence of Native American lineage, grounding the Paracas people within the indigenous context. This finding fundamentally defied the standard assumption that the Paracas people had simply evolved locally from earlier South American groups.
And the whole shape is much more complex than simple cranial deformation. And so we think this person was born with an elongated skull.
Instead, it strongly suggested that at least some of the individuals in those elite tombs carried an incredibly ancient foreign lineage, pointing to a migration event that mainstream archaeology had never acknowledged. Now, this is the point where the Paracas story often leaves the realm of science and enters pure sensationalism. You may have seen shocking claims that the Paracas people had natural red or blonde hair. While mummified hair can sometimes appear light, mainstream science confirms this is not a genetic trait. The lighter color is almost certainly due to environmental factors, such as natural bleaching or oxidation caused by the extreme dryness of the desert over 3 millennia. The DNA clearly shows human origin, and reliable forensic analysis confirms that while the migration is complex, the fundamental biology is human. Some researchers have suggested they found DNA with mutations that didn't match any known human lineage, not Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, or Denisovans. These initial, unverified results sparked a terrifying thought: that these skulls could belong to a lineage humanity had forgotten. The chilling quote that circulated widely. However, subsequent, more rigorous DNA testing has proven these sensational theories false. Scientific consensus is now clear. An independent forensic analysis published in 2022 used advanced techniques and confirmed the hair structure was human, and the resulting DNA profiles were overwhelmingly consistent with modern human populations. Testing revealed no evidence of foreign or non-human DNA, putting the alien creature claims firmly to rest. The Paracas skulls are confirmed to be of human origin. The true scientific shock is therefore not that they were alien, but that their human ancestors carried genetic signatures linking them to the Old World thousands of years before Columbus. This incredible finding is what gives weight to the next radical idea: that these people weren't just ancient migrants, but survivors carrying the remnants of a greater, lost chapter in human history. Lost worlds and the final allegations. The DNA results have confirmed something incredible. The Paracas elite were connected to populations thousands of miles away, challenging the accepted history of the Americas. If transoceanic contact happened so long ago, some thinkers ask a dramatic question. Were these people just distant travelers, or were they survivors carrying the last living remnants of a lost global civilization? This line of questioning is the heart of diffusionism, a compelling but controversial theory that suggests great cultures didn't develop individually. Instead, the theory suggests that all major civilizations, from the pyramids of Egypt to the complex tombs of Peru, inherited their most advanced knowledge from a single powerful mother culture that existed in ancient times. The Paracas evidence, with its sudden appearance of non-Andean lineage and what seems like advanced cultural mastery, provides perfect fuel for this radical idea. And this is where the famous legends of Atlantis and Mu enter the Paracas story. According to these narratives, a technologically advanced civilization was wiped out by a massive, catastrophic global event. The survivors, who possessed unique knowledge and lineage, scattered across the earth, becoming the founders of new elite bloodlines in distant, isolated regions. In this powerful counter-narrative, the Paracas elite, with their foreign DNA and elaborate burials, become the living, breathing evidence of this antediluvian migration. They were not simply new arrivals, they were the custodians of a great forgotten wisdom whose original home lies beneath the waves. This idea also provides a dramatic reinterpretation of the cultural practice we first explored. The practice of cranial deformation isn't just seen as a status symbol, but is theorized to be an attempt to emulate the naturally elongated cranium of the Atlantean or Mu elders. In this view, the Paracas elite were visually marking themselves as descendants of this powerful, forgotten race. Their sophisticated textiles, precise carvings, and advanced burial practices are framed as the last scattered residue of that superior, lost knowledge. This theory frames the Paracas as a group struggling to maintain the last vestiges of a truly global, ancient connection. This unsettling proposition that the Paracas are the echoes of a civilization deliberately erased from memory is a fascinating idea that drives us directly into the contemporary controversy. Why the mainstream scientists fight so hard against this evidence. We have walked the line between verified fact and fascinating theory. But as the scientific and fringe communities clash over the Paracas DNA, a stronger ongoing current emerges, the allegation of secrecy and deliberate suppression, despite the open scientific processes and evidence. This controversy is fueled by the most extreme speculations that have taken root, pushing the entire debate into the unsettling territory of conspiracy. When people see a skull that is so vastly different from the norm, their minds naturally turn to the impossible. Fueled by those early, sensational claims of unclassified DNA, theories quickly spread, suggesting the Paracas elite were of non-human origin, perhaps an advanced hybrid race. Others went deeper into ancient texts, linking the elongated heads to the biblical Nephilim, a race of giants born from unions between fallen angels and humans. These ideas take the Paracas mystery out of the university lab and place it squarely in the realm of ancient prophecy and forbidden knowledge. But these border speculations aren't the only source of doubt. The controversy gains real traction due to claims of an intentional cover-up. Reports have widely circulated suggesting that Peruvian institutions and museums holding the most critical specimens have repeatedly restricted or denied requests for further independent DNA testing. This alleged lack of transparency immediately fueled suspicion. Why? If the scientific truth is so clearly defined, are experts who want to perform detailed, peer-reviewed analysis often blocked from accessing the material? This action, or lack of, suggests to many that institutions are actively suppressing information that could seriously destabilize the historical narrative taught in schools worldwide. The truth is that if the foreign DNA haplogroups found in the Paracas skulls were to be proven through massive, fully peer-reviewed studies, it would force a revolution in our understanding of prehistory.
So I believe what happened was about 3,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Paracas decided to leave the area because they were being invaded by someone.
Acknowledging that the Paracas elite possessed a genetic lineage tied to the Old World thousands of years ago would require institutions to abandon long-held theories about the isolated development of the Americas. It would fundamentally rewrite ancient history on a global scale and confirm the possibility of transoceanic contact and cultural exchange in a time frame that archaeologists have always rejected. The ultimate question the Paracas skulls force us to face is this: do these ancient remains hold evidence of a forgotten chapter of human history? One where the globe was connected long before our history books begin? And is the effort to keep this evidence hidden simply a way to protect an established worldview? That is the final, lingering doubt the Paracas skulls leave us with. The shocking genetic revelations from Peru's 3,000 years old, elongated skulls have opened a door to the past that can never be closed. They leave us with a terrifying reminder that human history is far stranger, more connected, and far less complete than we dare to believe. What do you think about the Paracas skulls? Is this powerful evidence of ancient transoceanic migration, or the echo of something even more ancient? What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, click on the next video on your screen. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries.